All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to give folks just a couple of moments to get settled, and then we're going to jump right in. This is the LASSO Prize, the Large Animal Solar System Operations Prize informational webinar. We'll be focusing on stage one of the prize, but we will certainly do an overview of the entire prize. All right. Well, I see people still trickling in, but I think we can go ahead and get started. Hi, my name is Emily Evans. I'm a senior prize lead over at the National Renewable Energy Lab, working on the LASSO Prize. I am joined today by my colleague at NREL, Cameron Sorg, as well as the CETO team from DOE, which today I'm very happy to say includes Becca Jones-Albertus, who is the director of the Solar Energy Technology Office, Katie Taylor, and Bryn Huxley Riker. We'll be hearing from Becca in just a moment and others in the Q&A. Before we dive in, however, I wanted to quickly go through the agenda. So first, we are going to be covering some background and context of the LASSO Prize. Then we're going to talk about an overview of the LASSO Prize, kind of give you that big picture view of everything that's going on in this really exciting prize. We're going to talk about eligibility, who can apply, and then we're going to do a deep dive into the phase one submission requirements and winner selection process. We're going to wrap things up with a HeroX platform demonstration, and then with whatever time that we have remaining, we will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. A couple quick notes. This webinar is being recorded and we will be making it publicly available along with a PDF of the slide deck after today's webinar. It will be typically posted probably towards the end of this week, and we'll send out an update on HeroX as soon as that is available for you. We will have time for Q&A at the end of today's webinar. We may not get to every single question. However, we will be posting written responses to all questions, both answered and not answered, to our FAQ. So you'll be able to see a written response to your question, even if we don't have time for it. A final note is to please submit your questions to the Q&A tool and not via chat. This just ensures that we're able to see all the questions that come in and we're not missing any. We will be monitoring the chat and we'll give you friendly reminders to this, but if you can help us out and put those questions into the Q&A tool, we would really appreciate it. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Becca Jones-Albertus, the director of the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Energy Technologies Office. Becca, over to you.
Thanks so much, Emily, and thanks so much to all of you for being here. I wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about how we came to deciding to run the LASSO Prize and some of why we and I personally are very, very excited about it and really glad that you're here and considering participating. So at DOE, we've been investing in what we call agrivoltaics, or the use of land for both agricultural uses and solar production, for almost a decade. And we do this because of the promise of that agrivoltaics can help diversify income streams for farmers and landowners. It can increase tax revenue to communities. It can keep land in agricultural production while enabling increased solar energy use. So a lot of potential benefits. And we continue to hear excitement and interest in agrivoltaics in general as we talk to stakeholders. One of my colleagues at USDA, Andy Burke, and I hosted a series of listening sessions in January with different stakeholder groups to talk about clean energy siting on American farmland. And what we heard in those listening sessions, similar to what we hear in a lot of our engagement, was there is a lot of concern about loss of farmland and loss of that farmland to clean energy use. And we also heard a lot of interest in agrivoltaics, so that it's not, when we talk about land use, it's not no longer an either or. It's not, are we going to use this land for agriculture or are we going to use it for solar? But actually, when and where are there opportunities where we can use that land for both and not make it a choice? So we can go to the next slide here. So the interest in agrivoltaics has been growing rapidly. And, when we talk about agrivoltaics, that can be solar co-located with crop production. It can be solar co-located with pollinator habitat. What it is most commonly today is solar co-located with sheep grazing, as you can see in the picture here. Our National Renewable Energy Laboratory is tracking all types of agrivoltaics projects, and they're tracking over 7 gigawatts of sheep agrivoltaics, as we call it today. And we're hearing from folks that there may even be more projects than that are going on. So at least 200 projects around the country, more than 7 gigawatts, which is a few percent of all the solar that's been deployed in this country, co-located with sheep grazing. And we're hearing from the solar perspective that this has been a really effective tool in managing vegetation and keeping production high from solar plants. We're hearing from farmers that the shade the solar panels provide actually helps the sheep do really well, and in some cases to eat more and do better as well. So there's there's opportunities for increased soil health. So some really exciting outcomes, causing sheep grazing to be, I think, more and more of interest as a form of agrivoltaics. And we can go click through here. In the US today, we have about 5 million sheep, and we have about 88 million cattle. And so we've become very curious at DOE. We know that agrivoltaics works really well with sheep. What about with cattle? I think we're tracking only one project in the country today that's been trying to, that is set up to have solar production and cattle grazing. We want, through the LASSO Prize, to inspire and help support the development of several more of these projects so that we can really understand the costs, the benefits, and determine how much of our, how much potential there is for cattle agrivoltaics. We can go to the next slide here. Looking at this another way, we get a lot of questions about land use. And so just wanted to share, if you start on the right side here, you can see the small boxes, the amount of land that's been used today for utility scale or large scale PV plants. It's that smallest box on the right. If we scale up solar deployment to kind of goal levels where we're really targeting, can we get enough solar to decarbonize our electricity system by 2035? That would be 6 million acres of land that would be needed for that. You see that in that second smallest box. And just in comparison to the amount of grazing land we have, the very left, you can see that that would be about 1% of grazing land. So cattle agrivoltaics doesn't need to work everywhere or be a good model, but if it turns out to be something that is effective in some parts of the country, it may be a great opportunity for some farmers and ranchers in some places. So we're really excited about the potential. We're using the LASSO Prize to get more data, more information, and really excited that all of you are here. We know that to make these projects work, we're going to need partnerships between solar developers and farmers and ranchers. And so our prize is designed with that in mind, and to help those of you who are interested in this prize find other team members, as well as others, organizations that can be helpful in this process. So we've designed help with teaming in as a critical part of the prize, as well as we're trying to bring two communities that don't work at a lot together much more closely together. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Emily, and thank you all again for being here.
Thank you, Becca. We're going to certainly be talking a lot more about teaming and where to find that resource. All right, let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty details of the LASSO Prize. So we're going to start with an overview of the prize. We're going to talk about goals, timeline, and a summary of the two different project tracks that you can apply to. So as an overview, the LASSO Prize, as Becca was just walking us through, is designed to incentivize pilot cattle agrovoltaic projects across the US and share those designs and results to provide information and best practices. We have a total prize pool of $8 million. So that $8 million will be split between all winning competitors. There are two tracks that you can apply to within the LASSO Prize. There's one for new and existing projects. And then we also have 2 bonus prizes. Those 2 bonus prizes will be for the largest new agrovoltaics project over 5 megawatts DC. And then another one, which is the Data Bounty Prize, which is for the most valuable data that goes above and beyond the minimum requirements. Like I said, we have 2 tracks, and we're going to be going into a lot more detail on these 2 tracks, the standard and the operating projects. Track 1, the standard track. This is for teams that are developing new cattle agrovoltaic PV projects. So if you do not currently have a PV project for your cattle, this track is for you. Also, if you are expanding to add cattle, that is also the track for you. Track 2, the operating projects track. This is for teams who already have existing cattle agrovoltaic projects and are ready to go into the data collection. This is, again, we're going to talk a whole lot more about what these 2 tracks mean and the submission requirements for both, but just keep this in mind as we kind of move through the next slides. One important note is that projects may only be submitted to a single track. So if you have a project, you have to decide if it's either standard track or operating track. You can't apply the same project to both. Hopefully it's pretty clear which track you fit into, but just know that you do need to make a choice there. Here's another overview of the LASSO Prize, the tracks and the phases. This is more of a graphic view. We have the standard track. The standard track will have 3 phases, phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1, we're going to ask teams to form their teams, identify their projects. The submission is relatively straightforward. We're going to be focusing a lot of our deep dive there today. Phase 2 is all about getting ready for construction, performing your due diligence, and then actually energizing these projects. And then phase 3 is the data collection phase. That's going to last 2 years, and it's going to have 4 different stage gates where we're asking for data. The operating track, this is track 2. It has 2 phases. Phase 1 is, again, it's going to be summary information, tell us about your project, and then the winning teams from phase 1 will then go directly into phase 2, which is the data collection phase. So standard track phase 3 and operating track phase 2, they look very similar, but it's kind of just a fast track if you already have cattle integrated into your PV system. And then, like I said, we do have those 2 bonus prizes. So let's take a moment and talk a little bit more about the standard track. So again, this is for new cattle agrovoltaic projects. Standard track eligibility. So like we said, this is for teams who are developing new cattle agrovoltaic projects or teams with existing arrays that plan to introduce cattle to their systems or make alterations to existing arrays before introducing cattle. So either you're developing a new project or you have a PV array that you are planning to introduce cattle, you have not yet introduced cattle to, or you're making alterations to an existing array before you introduce cattle. All projects must include the co-location of cattle grazing and solar photovoltaics PV systems. Only ground mount projects are eligible. Projects that include rooftop or projects without interaction between the PV array and cattle, or projects with any other livestock such as sheep, are not eligible for this prize. All project PV systems must be a minimum of 250 kilowatts DC. One really important note here is that only the capacity of the PV system that the cattle actually graze under is going to be counted. So let's say if you have a bigger PV array on your land, it's 4 megawatts, and only only a small portion of that will actually be used for cattle grazing, like 250 kilowatt. That is still eligible, but it's only going to be counted as a 250 watt system. So that is a really important note to keep in mind. And then again, projects may only be submitted to a single track. Here's a deeper look at the standard track prize phases. Again, we have 3 phases, 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1, which we're going to be talking about today, is focused on forming your team, getting the right stakeholders engaged, and performing project planning. All teams must include a solar developer and cattle ranchers and farmers. That's basic eligibility. If you do meet this criteria, your submission will not be counted as eligible. You must also identify a site and develop a plan to integrate PV systems with cattle grazing. You don't have to have actually done it because you're in the standard track, but you do need to identify this and develop a plan to accomplish this in later phases should you be selected. The submission, which we're going to look at in more depth, includes team info, project details, narrative, just telling us all about your project. And all of this is really laying the groundwork for phases 2 and 3 so that teams that are successful in phase 1 are set up for success in phases 2 and 3. Moving into phase 2, this is up to 2.5 years. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in a moment, but this is the planning, design, and construction phase. Phase 2A is broken into two subphases, phase 2A and phase 2B. Phase 2A is going to be all about the designing of your site. You're going to be focused on site control, obtaining your permits, submitting your interconnection application, doing all your due diligence so that you're ready. At the end of phase 2A, successful teams will be awarded a cash prize and then move on to phase 2B, where they will actually build the system and energize it and integrate cattle. A really important note here, NEPA approval is required for phase 2A. We will be providing teams with very specific instructions, support where you need it, but just know that you must have NEPA approval for phase 2A. Teams that successfully complete phase 2B will then move into data collection in phase 3. This will happen over 2 years, and we're going to be looking for data on energy production, cattle health, OMN, and agricultural outcomes. There's going to be 4 submission deadlines every 6 months, and we're also going to ask that teams host community events to share insights on their system performances and best practices. Here is where the bonus prize will play in, where optional additional data, let's say soil quality, water management, community perceptions, can be submitted to the Data Bounty Prize.
Emily, I apologize for interrupting. Your headphones are getting a little fuzzy. Just want to let you know.
I appreciate you. Is this better?
Yes, so far.
Great. We'll just go with this then. All right, so then moving into cash prizes. Really excited about this prize. So you can see here how the prizes are separated out. When we go in to design a prize, what we're trying to do is right size the cash amounts so that they're lining up and supporting your work as you're moving through the prize. So phase one, again, we are just telling us about your team. You're telling us about your project. It's a relatively light, almost like a concept paper. If you win phase 1, we're going to select up to 14 teams in the standard track to win phase 1. We're going to give you a $50,000 cash prize. And the really great thing about prizes is that there are no deliverables and milestones that are tied to that cash prize. We are paying you for work that you've already completed in phase 1 and helping to fund your work going into phase 2, but I'm never going to come and ask you how you spent your cash prize, which makes it very flexible. Then in phase 2A, again, you're doing all your project due diligence. We do have a down select. So we are going to pay $50,000 to 14 teams in phase A. And then in phase 2B, we're going to down select from 14 teams to 7 teams. Those 7 teams that complete their due diligence and have the most robust project plans and are ready to build will receive $225,000. Now, as you can see here, and it may not be super obvious, but after we down select from phase 2A, then we do not down select again. So those 7 teams, as long as you meet all of the eligibility requirements and all the requirements for phase 2B, you are guaranteed a cash prize of an additional $225K. And same goes for Phase 2 prizes, there are no additional strings attached. You can use that money however you need to set yourself up for success in the following phase. At the end of phase 2, we will have the bonus prize for the largest PV system. This is only open to standard track prizes. The largest PV the largest PV system that is submitted will receive an additional 100,000 cash prize award. Then those teams from phase 2B will then move into phase 3. Phase 3 is divided into 4 sub phases, A, B, C, and D. Again, submitting that data every 6 months. Every time you submit data, you're going to get another $100,000 cash prize. Again, no strings attached. You can use this money however you see fit. At the end of phase 3, we will select the bonus prize winner for the Data Bounty Bonus Prize Award, and that competitor will receive $100,000. So all told, let's say you are super successful, you win both bonus prizes, you can win up to $1.1 million. Again, up to. All right, here are the key dates. We've walked through these phases. A couple things that I do want to point out. I do put this here. This is a lot of information to look at, but I do like to have this just so you can take a screenshot or you can download this later and check out these key dates. You can always see key dates updated on HeroX as well. But some really important items to make you aware of. Phase 1 submission deadline is March 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Please take a note of that 5 p.m. Eastern. I would encourage you to get your submissions in early, but you must submit to phase 1 by March 6th if you want to be considered and participate in any other phase of the prize. Phase 2, the phase 2A submission deadline has 3 separate deadlines. This means if you are ready to go and you're off to the races, you can submit to that November 27th deadline and be considered early. On the flip side of that coin, if you need a little bit more time to develop your project plans and do your due diligence, you can submit to either the May 28th or the November 26th deadline for consideration. And then as soon as you submit to either the November 27th, May 28th, November 26th, 2026 deadlines, then as soon as you are awarded, then you move directly into phase 2A and you can begin your construction immediately. Once you finish your construction, you can raise your hand and say, hey, I am ready. I've met all of the requirements. We will review your submission materials. And if you are successful in meeting all the submission requirements, you will be marked as a winner. We will pay you that additional cash prize and you'll move directly into phase 3. So we will have competitors in different stages of the prize at different times. And we set it up like this so that we can be responsive to your project schedule so that teams that need more time have the opportunity for more time. Teams that want to move faster can move faster. Yes, let's keep moving here. All right, so let's move now to the operating projects track for existing cattle agrovoltaics projects. So again, this is for teams that already have projects with cattle integrated. Looking at eligible projects. The operating track is for teams who have existing cattle agrovoltaic projects. So that means that your system must already be built and operational with cattle integrated at the time of your phase 1 application. If you apply to the operating track, you are your project is ineligible for the standard track. All projects must involve, again, the co-location of cattle. Again, only ground mount projects are eligible, no rooftop, and no projects where there's no interaction between cattle and the PV array. Again, no livestock other than cattle will be considered. All project systems must be a minimum of 250 kilowatt DC. And again, that is direct cattle integrated grazing area. So if you have a larger project and cattle is only grazing on a portion, only that portion is going to be considered. Projects may be submitted to may only be submitted to a single track. Operating projects is a little bit simpler than the standard track. There's only 2 phases. There's phase 1, which is open right now, and we're looking for those fully operational cattle agrovoltaic systems that are over 250 kilowatt DC. We're looking for you to submit project documentation, including system specs, cost info, and cattle integration details. And we're looking to collect your design operational data to make sure that you are set up for success in phase 2. Phase 2 is going to be the data collection and reporting. Again, we're looking for those 2 years of data collection with submission deadlines every 6 months. We're going to ask you to report on the same information that we're asking standard track phase 3 to report on. That includes system performance, energy production, cattle health, O&M, and agricultural outcomes. Teams will also host the community events to share their findings and best practices. And then additional data, soil quality, etc., can be submitted to the Data Bounty Bonus Prize for consideration. Oops, I think I skipped over one there. All right, looking at the cash prizes, again, in phase 1, we will award our winning teams $50,000. Same deal, no strings attached. You can use this money however you see fit to set yourself up for success in phase 2. Phase 2 has 4 different stage gates. Those are going to happen every 6 months. And again, will be up to $100,000 each. We will select one winner, and that's between both the operating track and the standard track, to award an additional $100,000 for that bonus prize. If you are very successful and you are awarded all of these awards, including the bonus prize, you can receive up to $550,000. Here are the key dates, much simpler than the standard track. Phase 1, same submission deadline, March 6, 2025 at 5 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to get your submissions in early. This is your opportunity to join the LASSO Prize. If you do not submit by this deadline, you will not be submitted for this round of the LASSO Prize. And then phase 2 is, again, those 6-month stage gate deadlines. Bonus prizes. Let's talk about bonus prizes for a moment. So again, we have those 2 bonus prizes. The first bonus prize is the largest PV system. This is for the standard track only. One winner will receive up to $100,000, and only the size of the cattle array will be considered. But we're looking for the largest cattle agrovoltaic project out of all of our standard track teams. All teams are going to be automatically considered for this one. You don't have to do anything extra. Just know that this is available to you. Bonus prize number 2 is the LASSO Data Bounty. Up to 1 winner will receive $100,000. That is open to teams in both the standard and operating tracks. And we're looking for additional information-rich data, such as time series energy data, water or soil quality data, forage data, cattle biometrics, etc. That's really open to you and what you think would be valuable to this space. All right, so those are the two tracks. Let's look at eligibility criteria for the prize as a whole. This competition is open to private entities. You can be a for-profit, nonprofit. It's open to non-federal government entities, so state, local, county, all eligible. Academic institutions, individuals who are citizens or legal permanent residents of the United States. A special note for LASSO Prize in particular, all individuals on the team must be legally authorized to work in the United States. So if they are a part of your submission, if you're adding them to your submission, all individuals must be authorized to work in the United States. The competition is not open to non-US citizens or permanent residents, non-US based organizations, projects with livestock other than cattle, projects that are not based in the US, and projects that are under 250 kilowatts DC. All teams must include a solar developer and a rancher or farmer. That is a basic eligibility requirement. Beyond that, you can include other teammates at your discretion of what you think is going to make that is most beneficial to you and your team, and also what is going to make your submissions shine. So that could be hardware and software manufacturers, local governments, utilities, the list goes on. We really want to see robust, holistic teams. Multiple submissions. You are allowed to submit multiple submissions to the LASSO Prize. So I told you that a single project can only go to one track, and that is true, but you can submit multiple projects. So let's say you have a project that's already developed and want to submit it to the operating track. You can submit a new project to the standard track as well. A couple things to be aware of in this regard. While competitors are allowed to be part of multiple teams and or submissions, each submission must be for a distinct project or system. So that means it's got to have a unique location. It's got to have different design parameters. It's got to meet all the eligibility criteria that's specified in the rules. Also, a competitor may only be the lead on one submission. So let's say I'm submitting a submission to the standard track and I'm the lead. I can support another application for another project in another location to either track, but I'm not allowed to be the lead on both. Someone else would have to be the lead for that submission, and then I would be in more of a support role. Moving on to phase 1 submission requirements. The number one thing that I can recommend that every single person does, and we're going to drop this link here into the chat, is to read the official rules. I recognize it's not the most exciting read on the planet, but it is your number one, the number one thing you can do to be successful in this prize. Read the rules, make sure you're being responsive to what we're asking for, what we want you to talk about, and make sure that you're meeting all of those basic eligibility criteria. To submit to the prize, there are 3 basic steps. One is submission. So phase 1 is open now for both the standard and the operating track. Once you read the rules and you get signed up on HeroX, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. You are competing in phase 1 as we speak. The end of phase 1 is going to culminate in you submitting your phase 1 submission to HeroX. Then after March 6th, after that submission deadline closes, we are going to evaluate all submissions. The evaluation process begins with an eligibility check. So we're going to be looking at things like, are all team members US or authorized to work in the US? Does the submission have a solar developer and a rancher and or farmer, and other eligibility requirements? Once eligibility is completed, we will then assign the submission to a panel of expert reviewers. Those expert reviewers are going to review and score all the submissions as is described in the rules document. And then we are going to get back the scores. NREL will support DOE in making final determinations. Following that, we will make our announcement. Announcements, very typically, you'll see an announcement anywhere from 2 to 3 months following a submission deadline. Just to be really clear, so we've talked about a couple different roles here on the LASSO team, or on the LASSO Prize, but a team is going to be made up of team members and the lead competitor. The lead competitor is the person who is going to submit the HeroX submission and put their name in the submission form as the lead competitor. The lead competitor is going to be our main point of contact and will also be in charge of distributing winners, or any winners should you be selected as a winner. So if I am listed as a lead competitor, I am going to be the person that gets contacted and notified if we win or receive the comments, and I will also receive the entirety of the cash prize, and it will be my responsibility to distribute that to my other team members. Really important on the LASSO Prize, all team members must meet the eligibility criteria in the official rules. And as Becca talked us through at the top of this webinar, forming teams is really essential for LASSO Prize success. Again, all teams must include at a minimum a solar developer and a rancher or farmer. That's going to be a basic eligibility criteria. And if we don't see evidence of that, your submission is not going to be put forward to the judging panel. But you should also be considering team members beyond that, such as local governments, academics, researchers, extension programs. The more robust your team is, the more robust your submission will be. Competitors are responsible for forming your own teams. No one's going to do that for you, but we are providing you with resources to help, such as the HeroX teaming resource. And also we are bringing on Power Connector support, which is a subcontractor that we work with and we pay directly to provide support to you to help you form your team. So you can go to them and say, hey, I'm really interested in teaming. I need to find a solar developer. Can you help me? I'm also going to show you the teaming resource where you can add your name to the list and start making those connections. Before I move out the slide, very important, the time to start forming your teams is now. Start reaching out, start making your project plans, find those people that are going to help make you successful. All right, now we're going to do a deep dive into the phase 1 submission requirements for both standard and operating track. We're going to start with standard track. So again, new projects. Your phase 1 submission is going to consist of team and project information. This is just going to be a questionnaire that you answer on HeroX, a written narrative, a summary PowerPoint slide, letters of support, and supporting documentation. I'm not going to talk through this because we're running a little short on time, but these are the items that we're going to ask you to upload to HeroX as part of your team and project information. And again, I know I'm kind of clicking through these quickly. All of this is in the official rules document. Your narrative. So this is going to be a written narrative that is a maximum of 500 words. So that's roughly 10 pages and up to 10 supporting images or figures. We're going to ask you to answer questions and provide information in 3 categories. Category 1, organizations, partnerships, and collaboration. Category 2, proposed project design. And category 3, benefits, impact, and scalability. This is a required document. This is one of the more important documents that you will submit, and it will not be made public. We're also going to ask that you submit a PowerPoint slide. This will be made public. So share any information that you feel comfortable sharing. If you have information that you don't feel comfortable sharing, feel free to take that out and not include that in your slide, but do include it in your technical narrative. These summary slides are really important. They help us to tell your story, and also they get posted publicly on HeroX so that once we announce winners, people can actually go in and click through and see who our winning teams are and the types of projects that were submitted. We do have a template available. You are not required to use it. Letters of support. We are requiring all team members who are not the lead to submit a letter of support. Letters of support should be combined into a single PDF and uploaded. You can include optional letters of support from outside stakeholders, community members, local government, whoever else helps to bolster your case and show support. You are also allowed to submit additional supporting documentation. So if there's additional items that you want to submit to supplement the narrative document or anything else, you can upload a single PDF of additional supporting documentation up to 15 pages. These 15 pages are yours to use however you see fit. This will not be made public. Evaluation criteria. So when we are evaluating these submissions, we are going to evaluate on those same 3 categories that are in the narrative. When you go to the official rules, you're going to see a table like you see here on the right, and we're going to score each category on a scale of 0 to 6 for considering all of these statements. So for example, under team, we're looking that the lead organization has compelling reasons for participating in the prize, and that you have the relevant experience, and that you are well situated for success. So if it were me, I would both look at what we're asking for in the narrative, and then also look at what we're scoring you on in the criteria, and make sure you're being responsive to that. Here's how we select winners. So I talked you through the eligibility review process and the expert review process. So all eligible submissions will be sent to expert reviewers who will individually review and assess the team's response to each of the statements described in the rules, that judging criteria. Reviewers then score each category on a 0 to 6, and then we add those category scores together to generate a total score for submission. Those total scores, along with comments, are provided to the Department of Energy, and who will make the final decisions on prize awards. The final determination of the winners is done by the judge, which we mean to be DOE, who considers reviewer feedback, scores, and application of program policy factors. So program policy factors could be geographic diversity, size of PV system. Those are additional factors that are generally outside the control of competitors that we layer into submissions. So a lot of times we'll see lots of submissions from, let's say, California. Well, we don't want all of our winners to be from California. We want some geographic diversity. And so in that case, we may select winners that maybe did not score quite as well, but maybe are located in other states. So things like that. This again is all detailed in the official rules. Moving on to the operating projects track, this is going to look a whole lot like the standard track, but has some slight differences. So on your submission form, if you have an existing project and are submitting to the operating projects track, we're going to ask that you submit the team and project information. So again, that questionnaire on HeroX, a narrative, a summary PowerPoint slide, and letters of support. I'm going to keep clicking through this. Some of these elements will be made public. A lot of this is the same information that we just saw for the standard track, but it varies when we start getting into the project information. We're going to be asking you a lot more information about your existing PV system. We're also going to be asking for more documentation. So we're going to be asking you to upload things like the engineering designs, the interconnection agreements, if there's any land use permits, etc. Your narrative has 5 categories. So category 1 is organization, partnerships, and collaboration. Category 2 is design of existing project. The design of your existing project. Category 3 is cattle integration. Category 4 is plans for data collection. Again, making sure that you're set up for success in phase 2, should you be successful. And category 5, benefits, impact, and scalability. Again, you can see exactly what we're asking for in the narrative in the official rules document, section 5.6.2. Summary PowerPoint is the exact same. Again, letters of support, they're required for all team members who are not the lead, and you can include optional letters as well. And the evaluation criteria, again, will mimic the narrative with those 5 categories, where we will go through and we will score. Very similar process. I'm not going to talk through this again. And that will bring us to our HeroX platform demonstration. So give me a quick moment, and I am going to move us over to a live demo of the HeroX platform. Here we go. All right. So you can see in here that I have gone to herox.com/lasso. I am already signed into my account here. If you do not have an account, it will prompt you to sign up for an account. You've probably done it a million times. It's very easy. The first thing that I would do is I would click on this follow button. In fact, we are dropping the link to the HeroX into the chat right now, and I would encourage everyone to sign up and follow the prize right now. What that's going to do a couple things for you. That's going to ensure that you get all relevant updates that we post about the prize, including reminders, power connector support, events, resources, anything that we are sending out to competitors to help you be successful will be communicated through HeroX. The next thing you want to do is familiarize yourself with the HeroX page. So we have a summary. You can read all about these high-level items that we've gone over today. Timeline, if we do have any updates to the timeline, we will modify the rules and post an update, but we will also update the challenge timeline here. You can also see other events that are happening, such as this phase 1 webinar updates. You can go through and see all of the updates that we have posted about the webinar. When we post new updates, if you are following the prize, you will get emailed. There is a form here where you can connect with other competitors, and we also monitor this form and post responses. Here you can check out the teams that have already been formed. This is not the main teaming resource, but you can scope out others who are interested. I'm going to skip this entries button because I have this as a moderator. You will not have this as a moderator. Resources, this is where you're going to go and find the official rules. The teaming resource, I am going to click on because that is very important. Oh, here's the LASSO Prize teaming form. You will complete this MS form to be added to the teaming form. I have already, so you'll just click next, you'll fill out your information, and then once you do that, you will be added to this very robust teaming form. So you can already see people are very much engaged with it, and chances are you'll be able to find someone to help your team or to team up with. I would highly encourage you to make use of this form. Then finally, we'll have the FAQ. This is where you'll be able to see our frequently asked questions. Anytime we get a question, we will post a response to the FAQ in addition, so that everyone has the same access to the questions that are being answered. When you're ready to submit your phase 1 submission, go in here, click on solve this challenge. It's going to ask you to accept the competitor agreement, and then you're going to have a couple options. You can create your own team. So that means that you're creating a team that you will then be able to invite other people to see it, collaborate on it. But if you're clicking this button, you will be designated as a team lead. You can join an existing team. Let's say Katie has formed a team and I want to join her team. I would click on this button and say, I want to join a team. It will then prompt you to search for a team. Or you can say, I just want to compete individually. You can still have a team and compete individually. This is really only a function of who else has access to the HeroX submission. So let's say I have a team, but they don't really need to be on HeroX. I can go ahead and just say, I want to compete individually. You can still have that robust team, but they just won't have immediate access to the submission. Once I click that, you're going to get this banner that says that you've successfully completed your registration. When you are ready to start your entry, you're going to say begin entry, and then you're going to go through and complete the submission form. So everything that we just went through and everything that's listed in the rules document is going to show up in the submission form, and you will go through and fill it out. You'll go through to the teaming, all the document uploads, everything that you need to do to submit your phase 1 submission. Once you're ready, you will click save and preview, and then it's not going to show up for me because I'm not going to take the time to go through and actually fill all this out. But once everything is filled out, all the required fields have been completed, you'll get a submit button. You can save and preview as many times as you want now through the submission deadline, but just make sure that you click that submit button by March 6th. All right. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Here's just kind of all of this in PowerPoint format if you want to refer to it later. One final note before we get to Q&A, we do have Power Connector support. Our Power Connector for this prize is ADL Ventures. ADL is a subcontractor who we have directly paid to provide additional support to competitors. This means that ADL will be helping us with recruiting, getting the word out about the prize. They will be offering office hours throughout the phase 1 prize period. So October through March, there'll be opportunities for you to sign on to a Zoom, ask questions, get support. They'll be offering application support if you have questions about the rules or you want them to look at a section of your narrative, they'll be able to do that. More information on how to connect with EDL Ventures will be posted soon to HeroX. All right, let's go ahead and open it up for Q&A. I invite Bryn, Katie, and Cameron if you'd like to turn on your videos, and we will go right into the Q&A. I'm going to leave this up so that everyone can see this information here. All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and start with this first question. I use the word ground mount. Does this mean that this can be elevated, such as a canopy or a shade structure, to increase the height for above cattle?
Yeah, great. Thank you for that question. So we're interested in any type of PV arrays. So that does and can include canopy or hanging PV, things like that. You just need to read the rules very thoroughly, check the eligibility, and make sure it counts. But as Emily said earlier, things like rooftop solar next to where the cattle are does not count.
Thank you, Katie. Next question, does the makeup of the team, the type of organization, number of partners, etc., have any effect on being awarded?
Another great question. So again, the eligibility, you just need to make sure that you have a solar developer and a farmer or rancher, as you'll see when you look through the rules. Everything else, it's all about your project. We love to see, diverse teams with lots of members contributing different things, but it's all about explaining what your project is and what different people will contribute to the project to achieve those goals.
Thank you, Katie. We're gonna just move right through these as quick as possible. Let's see here. Next one is this participant understands that this isn't for projects with rooftop solar, but can the project be co-located at facilities that are also developing plans to incorporate solar in other aspects? So for example, if there's a farm that's looking at setting up a tracking PV system, but is also looking to put some solar on rooftops on its barns, is that okay?
Yeah, glad for that question. What you're going to apply with is what's not the, on the rooftop. So the 250 kilowatt minimum, you wouldn't be able to count what's on the rooftop towards that. It has to be what's on the ground that cattle are interacting with, has to be at least the 250 kilowatts. So if you have rooftop solar as well, that's great, but we don't necessarily need to hear about it, and we won't be evaluating that.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie. And apologies, I'm just plugging in my computer here. All right, moving right along. Will applications for projects be considered for hay grown inside PV array and used for cattle outside the fences? Also, are cattle limited by breed or size?
Another great question. So we're really emphasizing projects in which cattle interact with the PV array. So we're not considering projects in which the only interaction is hay grown inside the array and brought out to cattle. There has to actually be interaction between the animals and the array, but there are no limits on breed or size of cattle. We just want to hear about your plan.
Thank you, Bryn. All right, Katie, this one is for you. Can other structures other than ground-mounted solar be included in the submission? Or should competitors simplify to just the solar system?
Yeah, similar to the last response, we want to hear about the solar system that the cattle will be interacting with.
All right. Next question, I can take a stab at, and Katie, if you want to as well, but you're welcome. If a prize is awarded, can it be used as a match for federal grants? And I would say to check with your federal grant and make sure it's okay on their side. doesn't matter so much on the prize side, but it could matter on your federal grant side. Katie, I don't know if you have any other insights there.
You are 100% right. Just look at the rules for whatever federal grant you're talking about. We can't answer that for, I'm not sure which ones you're applying for, but good luck.
All right. Katie, is there a bias towards novel innovations, or is this just about the best, most thought out, the best, most well thought out plans, biggest PV systems? Like, what are we really looking for here?
No, it's a brilliant question. We are certainly interested in novel technology. However, the prize is really holistic. We're looking for understanding your cattle management plan, your grazing plans, understanding the PV as well. But you'll see there's a section in the rules that goes over how we score and how we evaluate. So that should really clarify what we're looking for.
Yep. Again, another plug to read the rules. What's in the rules and what we say we're evaluating is what we're evaluating and what we're looking for. So encourage you to check out that document. Bryn, a question for you. If phase 2 is a rolling entry, when will you decide how you go from 14 to 7 teams? Because we do have that down select there.
Yeah. You would also be a great person to
I
answer
can
this
also
question.
answer if you prefer.
So phase 2 has 2 subphases. 2A is not quite rolling. That's the phase with 3 potential deadlines at different stages. Phase 2A is the subphase in which we're asking you to have a fully detailed plan, sort of all of your designs and so on worked out, get approval on all of the things you need, including NEPA for construction. So we will be making decisions at each of the sub-phase deadlines. So each of those 3 deadlines in phase 2A, and over the course of those 3 deadlines, down selecting from 14 to 7. Phase 2B is the construction phase. That's the one that's rolling entry, but there's no down select.
Perfect. And I would add to that, so we do have those 3 deadlines that we're evaluating submissions at. So there's definitely incentive to move quickly when you can move quickly. You've got to make the decision between moving quickly and making sure that you have a really robust, strong submission. You can resubmit. So if you're not selected at that first deadline, you can resubmit for the next one. And so I would encourage that. So if you do submit to that first one and you do not get selected, keep resubmitting. Take that feedback that you receive, make your submission stronger, because we will be adding into that winner pile at each deadline. Winner pile, winner cohort is probably a nicer word for that. Thank you, Bryn. Let's see here. Moving right on down. If a project is already permitted, but will not be operational by the phase 1 deadline, is it eligible to apply through the standard track?
Yep, great question. So the operating projects track is for projects that are fully operational. They are built, cattle are interacting, and meets all of the other eligibility requirements at the time of the phase 1 deadline. Everything else, no matter what other stage of development, if it's a twinkle in your eye or if it's partly built, everything else other than that can go in the standard track.
Amazing. Thank you, Katie. All right, we got just about 1 minute here, so I'm going to try and get through 1 or 2 more questions. Again, if we do not get you to your question, we have not gone to many questions. We will be responding with a written response in the FAQ. We will post on HeroX when that is available. But as we have an additional minute here, can a solar developer submit 2 applications for 2 different separate designs? I can go ahead and take that one. And the answer is yes, but you cannot be the lead on both. So you can be the lead on one, and then you'll need to play more of a supporting role on the other. Let's see here. Let's go. Katie, last question. If a project is in the early development stage, but no construction or grazing yet, is that eligible for the standard track?
Yep, same answer. Unless the cattle are there and they are interacting and it's all fully built, electrified, and meets the eligibility criteria, then you want to go for the standard track.
All right. I want to be respectful of everyone's time today. So again, we will be responding to all questions. Just keep an eye on HeroX. A couple final reminders. Follow the prize on HeroX. Very, very important. Read the rules document. Number one tip for success: form your team. Start finding your team today. Use that teaming resource tool that's posted on HeroX. As soon as we have those ADL office hours posted or identified, we will be posting them to HeroX and get signed up for those. That is a wonderful resource. And finally, don't forget to submit to the phase 1 submission deadline. That again is March 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you have any questions, we are available at lasso.prize@nrel.gov. My name is Emily Evans. It's been a pleasure to talk you through this prize. We are so excited for the community support that we've had for this prize. We are excited to see your submissions. Huge thanks to Dr. Becca Jones-Albertus, Katie Taylor, Bryn Huxley Riker, Cameron Sorg, and Becky Talley for your support. This completes our webinar. Thank you all so much, and best of luck in phase 1.